What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash, here to continue our fantasy football preview episodes. Today we're talking about tight ends. And we're kind of entering a new era of tight ends a little bit. It was Kelsey Kittle for years and years and years. And now it's all the young guys. It's Bowers, it's McBride, it's Harold Fannin, Matt Colston Loveland. I imagine we're going to have a very heated debate about where he ends up. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. But before we do, how are you guys doing? We are kind of back as far as football is concerned, right? We've had the Hall of Fame game, Hall of Fame induction ceremony, preseason's underway. How are you guys feeling?
I'm feeling good. Fresh all 22 from the Hall of Fame game always hits. It's kind of an underrated day in the football calendar, I feel like. Like, it doesn't matter, of course. The Hall of Fame game doesn't determine really anything about how your season will go, but it's a great little point to get to when you sit down and watch Tomlin and Jason Garrett and Devin McCourty or Jason McCourty. I couldn't remember which brother it was, at the desk talking about everything that happened during the offseason and, you know, the whole drama and the packages and just the whole Sunday Night Football production. Really, like, yeah, we are back. I was fired up, and it was a great game, the Hall of Fame game. It was actually fun to watch.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
yeah, I mean, it was a classic. They said on the broadcast it's a good omen. I completely agree. I wasn't really that I wasn't really that invested in who was going to win until we picked up that 3rd and 14, and then I'm like, come on, we can't lose a game like this now. And I always feel like we have the Cardinals number. That might be the only team whose number I feel like we've got, but we always have something for the Cardinals, except for that one time Jake Delhomme threw like 7 interceptions in the playoffs.
You have the Packers number. The Panthers have the Packers number. I do not trust us in a game against the Panthers. We've got to have a horrible record.
You guys are just bad and we're nice. That really isn't like
Thanks. Yeah,
it's not like a jinx or superstition or anything like that. It's just the reality of the football world, I'm afraid. Didn't feel great watching that game for the most part, outside of the fact that obviously, like, we moved the ball well and Haynes King was running around, and shout out to him. But Theo, you talked about it on the Patreon. I agree. The pass rush did not look great from guys who are probably going to have to make a pretty big impact. I didn't think the depth on the offensive line looked awesome either, but it's also the Hall of Fame game, and anybody who's been watching football long enough remembers Jamar Chase dropping a bunch of passes and will never trust anything from the preseason ever again.
Yep.
So
Dorian Thompson-Robinson went nuclear in the Hall
that
of
one.
Fame.
Actually, that one's even better, Blaiden. That's the worst one ever, where it's like he looked okay, and you're like, this guy can really play, and then he got into a game and just couldn't get it together at all. So
That's what I'm like, I'm totally managing expectations with preseason ball after that. I'm like, I will never trust my eyes in preseason ever again. It really is such a different level. It's head and shoulders, night and day difference.
The defenses just don't move as fast. The windows you have to throw into for quarterbacks are completely different, and it's easier to get out and run, I think. Not to rain on Haynes King's parade. I'm not even going to say.
Oh, yeah. All these parades deserve to get rained on. They deserve to get rained on. I mean, every single bootleg featured a blown coverage the entire night. And no one was really solving their bootleg issues by, like, blitzing the nickel or taking away those types of things. So basically, the reason why it was a shootout and the reason why it was an instant classic is just because, like, this static coverage cannot distribute a 3-level flood concept with someone adding in from the backside in a boot. So they're just like, man, there's too many numbers. And Culp or whoever, number 26 on the Cardinals, like, that poor corner just had absolutely, like, no intention of playing a midpoint or, you know, guarding the flat, getting eyes on the flat. So, like, you're just able to boot and throw it to the flat. And that probably picked up 10 yards of play for both sides in the Hall of Fame game. Like, it's so easy. It's so easy. So yeah, I mean, I did a little breakdown of the Panthers standouts on TikTok since they won, and one of them was like Chandler Zavala. And all the comments were like, "This guy sucks." I'm like, "Yeah, probably." So does
I know that
Jonah Williams, the guy he's going up against. That's probably why I look good.
Well, he had like 39 allowed pressures in 4 games. Either the year before, when he got 4 starts in a row. I mean, it was like, and he still ended up like very close to not leading, but he was like top 5 or something with PFF's charting, which is not to be taken without a grain of salt, but 39 pressures in 4 games.
Oh, I'm sure he was
rough.
awful. Like, I'm Panthers are like, you cannot be talking about Chandler Zavala right now. I'm like, no, I'm sure you've got it right that he was terrible. Like,
he's the backup.
He's the backup, and he was going up against even deeper backups. He did not get Andrew Billings. He did not get anybody good to go up against. But like, yeah, if I'm grading players from this game, like, yeah, he probably looked the best out of anybody. He was PFF's number 1 graded player, so we're aligned there. It's just funny. It's funny. People are like, and then people are like, why are you? It's preseason. Do I even have to say it? It's preseason. It's like, well, that's where we're at.
No, you don't. You don't have to say it at all.
It is preseason. I mean, yes, that's
if someone makes a video breaking it down and is like, here's the standouts from this game, you're not saying like Zavala is going to start. They're changing their. It's just, people want to.
Oh yeah, it's
whatever.
It is total nonsense.
Can I get something off my chest? I got to talk about Enes Kanter for 1 second.
Oh my gosh, dude. Please, you have the floor.
I have the floor. This is the thing that like the right does not understand about trans people. They're not just pretending. They think they're just like pretending. Like you could just say I'm a girl and that makes it true. Like they actually change, guys. Like they actually like go through and change their hormones and like their physical characteristics like metamorphosize in a pretty big and crazy way. But they don't know that. And they think like science, they're like, they don't even refer to God or religion. They refer to science. They're like, well, biologically, it's this or this. If you're mad at somebody for making someone trans, you're not mad at a costume store. You're mad at a doctor and a scientist. Like there are legitimate scientific changes and like biological changes that somebody goes through when they transition. And that's not what they're going to do. So they're not doing anything. You can't just say I'm trans and then you're trans. Like,
well, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't like, doesn't the NBA or the WNBA require trans athletes to be on hormones for a certain amount of time or like a number of right.
Yeah.
So
every single women's sporting league from high school to professional requires that. Like,
yes,
it's just it's nothing.
If a trans woman is competing in sports, they have gone through things to like make them a woman. That's why they should compete with.
Yes,
you. Like that's it's very material, and you can't quote science to just debunk this because like science is what they're going. They're not just saying. Like they're actually going through things. They're actually going through a scientific process to change.
And I've never understood why the right focuses so heavily on this when, like, it's such a small percentage of the the tiniest percentage of the population of maybe any group ever in human history, right? And then not to like minimize trans people. Obviously,
it's not a lot of trans athletes.
It's just not a lot of trans athletes, and like they're also not winning. It's not like like their big concern is like, oh, these men are gonna steal all these victories from like deserving women, and they're like trying to like grandstand on the stance of like supporting women or like we're the real feminists here, and it's like who's out here stealing these victories? They can't name, there's not one. Like they try and name one and they're wrong about it. They named like the one swimmer who like came in 8th place, right? It's like, that's it. That's the only stat they have ever.
I think Leah Thomas was higher than 8th. I don't know if she won that competition. She may have, but yeah.
I thought she was 4th and then beat Riley Gaines.
Yeah.
Who got
Gaines
5th.
was not
Maybe
second
that's what I thought it was.
But I know a lot of
Yeah.
trans women, I really do, and none of them are very athletic. It is not a hack to. It is not some hack to like become a super soldier. I'll tell you that right now. I'm.
They don't give you Captain America serum when you.
No. A lot of them are getting dispatched rather easily in any field of athletic competition. I have to say, much love to them, but I don't know. It's so annoying. I didn't want to quote tweet it just because it's like that's all that he wants is to happen is grift for the revenue. So I just wanted to say it here, like how dumb that it is.
In fact, I have something I got to talk about.
Yeah,
Theo, Cam Newton's not going to get in.
Oh yeah, I know
he's got no chance. He can be a senior edition, but he's not anywhere close. The thing with Cam, bro, it's like there is a universe out there where he ends up in a situation that is better than what Carolina's was and is consistently leading great offenses and is not like hamstrung by Devin Funches and Calvin Benjamin and whichever other Dave Gettleman receivers he was playing with. And maybe Steve Smith doesn't get cut because Gettleman isn't so proactive, I'll say, about like trying to stay under the cap and get bad contracts off, or maybe he just has better tackle play overall in the Super Bowl and gets one, and people look at that one run as kind of undeniable rather than, well, you didn't get the ring. But we don't live in it. I feel strongly that situation for quarterbacks is as undervalued as ever. And even though there's usually like a smoking gun or two every single year that kind of proves, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo just led a top 5 offense like multiple years in a row, and turns out he's not even like a starter. Or look at Jared Goff, and when he first goes to the Lions, their passing offense is terrible. They can't win a game. They can't get anything done. Situation becomes better. All of a sudden, is Jared Goff underrated? Or like Matthew Stafford, not quite as much on like the passing offense or passing numbers because he was a very high volume player, but even by EPA per play, they weren't very efficient in Detroit. Even with Calvin Johnson, you'd be surprised by how low they ranked by some metrics, albeit the rushing offense was terrible and that probably led them to a lot of volume. But when he goes to the Rams and he goes from the loser to the winner, and now he's got an MVP and people say he's a top 20 quarterback of all time, and if they win another Super Bowl, man, think about how high people are going to rank him. The conversation doesn't become like, hey, maybe we need to have second thoughts about calling guys who are in bad spots losers. Maybe we need to think about the hypothetical of if they had a better supporting cast. It's just that Stafford then becomes a guy who has a ring and cannot be questioned. That's what happens. And it would happen to Justin Herbert if he got in a good enough situation and he went and won a ring, or Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson, or Kyle Shanahan, or whoever. Although Shanahan, I don't think is as situationally, limited, obviously, because he's in large part the one making the decisions. But just, an example of like a Dan Marino tier guy, I guess, as a coach, where it's like, damn, we don't have the ring. Regardless, like Cam just does not have the actual results that you need. Unfortunately, he probably was good enough to where if he goes into a great spot, he could have like even getting injured early in his career, like maybe like a Steve Young type case where he gets a couple of MVPs. If he's throwing to like, first team all pro Jerry Rice or whatever, that would be awesome. But it's just a battle I can't bother to fight. 25 years from now, when he's in the senior bracket, all right, then we're going to war. I'll raise the flag then. But for now, I don't think.
We might have to wait for senior bracket. And I guess I wish I was his campaign manager, Cam Newton. I don't think he'll get in, but that's a fight. That's a case I'd like to take on. All the Hall of Famers, they get like somebody that has to make a 5-minute presentation and kind of make the case, the elevator pitch, why they should be in, and then everybody deliberates. My pitch on Cam would be, they're about to make Gronk a first ballot Hall of Famer. They're about to make Gronk a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has 4 1,000-yard seasons. Travis Kelce has 7. All right. Like, we recognize with Gronkowski that the peak outweighs the longevity, and this is just one of the best to ever do it. And he was an alien cyborg playing in the modern day. And all those things. Cam is kind of the same thing, where like from when he was a rookie, when he stepped into the league to when he hurt his shoulder in like 2018 or whatever, like this was a dominant quarterback and an MVP candidate. I mean,
I just think I think the standard is just higher for certain players, and like I do think there has been some precedent set with like Kuechly, right? Kuechly was the best linebacker in the NFL for 8 seasons. Matt, first team All-Pro 7 years out of the 8 that he was in the NFL. He wasn't first ballot. Like if Kuechly isn't first ballot, I think the bar.
I'm not even. Well, Cam first ballot is beyond the pale. Like we're just trying to.
Oh, you're trying to get him in the hall. Period.
At any point.
Okay.
During his lifetime.
At any point. Yeah, but I think it's going to be a
people legitimately don't think that Cam Newton was good outside of 2015. He didn't play in an offense that asked him to like check it down often or to get a bunch of short game stuff. So his completion percentage is bad. And frankly, there are probably more people who think that Cam was, for his entire career, the player he was after he hurt his shoulder than there are people who properly rate Cam Newton. Now, where you can find success is saying that Cam Newton was the best college football player of all time and that he had the best season. Nobody's got a good case against that because really, when you say, hey, I know what the yards say, but ultimately, like Cam just didn't throw that many times and he was still crazy efficient and he led the SEC in rushing at the same time. And that Auburn team had no business winning a national title and they had no business winning a national title. And that is like the greatest one-man army, I'm going to get my team a championship moment. Like, at least that I can think of in American football, maybe in basketball too, honestly. It's just, it's tough. You do need to get a little lucky to pull something like that off. But the fact that he did that, I think I can really pound the table for. But there's just, people are too far gone on what they think Cam Newton was because of how poorly the Panthers were run. Defensively, they were good. They had some good offensive linemen, but they didn't have the pieces you need to generate a great passing offense with consistency. And it's always going to kill Cam.
And Gronk stacked like first team all pros where like he was regarded as the best tight end, and Cam just doesn't have a lot of like first team all pros. And I think I think Russ suffers from this as well, is like Russ was probably at his absolute peak, maybe the first 2 seasons of his career. And I think you could say about the same for Cam. I mean, Cam comes into this terrible first overall situation and immediately turns them around. I mean, his second year in the league, they win 7 games. Obviously, that quarterback's not going to get first team all pro, but like Ryan Khalil is out for the year, even that season. And I think Cam leads them in rushing yards as well. So it's like this complete, again, one-man army, but that just doesn't really work in the NFL type thing. So like his first 2 seasons, I think, and this is the same with Russ, it's no one wants to give the rookie their flowers because they think like, oh, like, they haven't really arrived yet, that like we'll give them to it down the line. I think May got hurt by that last year for first team all pro and MVP.
He got
and stuff like that.
He got screwed so bad.
And I think Russ too, and Cam, like I keep repeating. So he just didn't end up with the accolades. I don't think the first 2 years, especially of his career, are rated properly. 2015, I don't even think that's rated properly in the public eye because like he didn't like crush it in efficiency metrics, but sometimes I think that almost means more because it's proof, like not proof, but if you're not crushing it in the efficiency metrics, it could mean that you're really carrying. Like I think about Herbert these last 2 years, or Lamar Jackson in 2023 before Derrick Henry got there when he won MVP. Like they were all very, like if you look at the stats, very middle of the road. But we've also seen them at the top of the league at different years when, tackle situations, wide receiver, running back, whatever it is, gets to the peak. You could throw Josh Allen in there. There have been years where Josh Allen was really low in the stats. Now he developed, you could say, but he also got Diggs, right? So there is like, I think a case to be made, and it mirrors kind of like, well, if you letting Gronk in, like Cam's kind of a similar story.
People just don't believe that Cam was the player that Gronk was.
No one believes that.
And on some level, like Gronk was arguably,
because Gronk is crazy, but Cam was pretty crazy too. I mean, Cam was Superman and Gronk was Superman. Like they're both probably the most physical, fast, height, weight, speed guys maybe to ever exist at their positions. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't think people properly value how much a rusher like Cam Newton can affect other players' numbers. I think about the play where he has enough gravity to take Harrison Smith off of Jonathan Stewart, and Jonathan Stewart breaks a big run. You're just never going to get the credit for that you really deserve. The numbers will show you, like, oh, Lamar, for instance, can turn the Ravens into the best rushing attack at any given time, and they're the most efficient by far and whatever, and every running back who goes there gets 6 yards a carry. But I just don't think people weight that as much as they would like passing yards. And honestly, in some ways, it can hurt you because if you run like that, you don't throw as much. And even if you're really efficient, sorry, Lamar, you threw it, 450 times. And at the end of your career, people will just look at the passing yard number. On top of that, when Cam has like a great season, or when any of these guys have a great season in spite of, their weapons or like their outside receivers, it doesn't get the respect that it deserves because a lot of people just don't think that outside receivers, they don't think that help matters as much for quarterbacks as it really does. And you can sit here and kind of be like, well, with how much the general public like thinks great receivers play into the passing offense and like the production that a quarterback is going to end up getting because they're the one who get like, the volume stats for the passing offense more than anybody else. You would figure they would also have like, or it would make sense if they also thought like receivers were really not that important in a vacuum themselves, or that like you shouldn't pay those guys, but nobody really thinks that. So
yeah,
Gronk was undeniably one of the best at his position. Most people would say he at his best was the best at his position. Cam wasn't and doesn't have anywhere close to that type of pull. But I do think Gronk's case is interesting. Blaiden, you brought up Kuechly. That's a good question. How is it that Kuechly is not first ballot, but Gronk is? It's not an easy argument to make, I don't think. Gronk he started about 10 more games. He played about 25 more. He has probably close to as many really great seasons in total as Kuechly, but because he was always getting banged up, he missed out on several, or like didn't play enough games in many years to actually get the accolades. Kuechly, though, does have the Defensive Player of the Year, does have more first and second team combined all pros. There was never a season where Kuechly was not considered one of the best, if not the best at his position. And he is very widely considered to be one of the best of all time at his position. The only question being longevity, albeit Ray Lewis probably has him beaten most people's eyes. There's guys who also were great like Kuechly with consistency, also had that Defensive Player of the Year, but then did it for longer. Kuechly wasn't forced out of the NFL, though. Of course, it was a concussion. But with Gronk, it feels like the big difference would have to be the postseason, the rings. But
it is.
As much as I think that will matter, and as much as I think Gronk should be a first ballot Hall of Famer for the record, I think that we'll be told the difference is the rings. I think that's bullshit. I think that stacking up rings, especially as a non-quarterback, but even as a quarterback, is largely dependent on your situation and your surroundings. There's many great players who don't get a ring. And when it's somebody like Larry Fitzgerald, we can all sit here and say, well, what are you going to do? In part because he, did everything in his power to close a game against the Steelers. But you know what? When Luke Kuechly was in the Super Bowl, how many points did the offense or the defense really let up? I think they let up like 2 serious drives for a combined 6 points, and then maybe another one where the Broncos started on the 4 of Carolina's 4. So I think that
2 maybe that started right down there. Maybe one of the fumbles scored or something. Anyway,
I would bet that if you switched Kuechly and Gronk, you put Gronk on Carolina and you put Kuechly on New England, that Kuechly would have more rings. And that'll probably be the explanation for why Gronk goes in as the rings. But I think it's wrong. I think that they should have put Kuechly in. And while maybe you could make the argument that they should stick to that precedent and that the rings are too much of a team accomplishment to be the difference, and that the accolades actually favor Kuechly and he's got the deep play and all that, ultimately, I got to stand by my take that if you set a precedent, but it's a bad precedent, you shouldn't follow it. I think that Kuechly should have been first ballot. I think Gronk is a pretty easy first ballot player. Adrian Peterson is also coming up. I think he's a pretty easy first ballot player. and there's somebody else who's slipping my mind right now.
Sherman and Antonio Brown. Matt, real quick, can I ask, do you think the off-the-field stuff for Adrian Peterson will play a role?
It's just not as prominent as, I don't know. Maybe. It's really tough to say because on the one hand, it feels like we don't talk about that as much as we do, like Antonio Brown or a lot of other guys, at least at this point. It's been a long time, but Belichick didn't get in first ballot, dude. And his off the field stuff, I mean, you could say that it's more related to the NFL because of Spygate and all of that, but nobody saw that coming. So whether or not the voters are going to decide like, hey, we just think this dude is a bad guy and we're not going to let him in first ballot is impossible to guess. To me, AP, I don't know. I would love to see if we're going to do that and we're going to say, well, this guy off the field or, well, this guy politically or he did some things that we don't like and we want to ding him for that. Fair enough. But, you know, there's an owner and his name is slipping me way back in like the 30s and 40s who famously led the charge to desegregate the NFL. And he's in the Hall of Fame right now. They're not exactly booting him out.
No,
so again, I stand by if a precedent's set and it's bad, you shouldn't follow that precedent. But man, I don't know. I would figure that AP is in. Yeah. But I guess we shouldn't figure that any of these guys are first ballot. It really takes a lot. Kuechly missing really shocked me. I know I'm biased. I know I'm a Panthers fan, but man.
It's one of the most shocking first ballot exclusions I think I've ever seen.
It bothers me that Calvin Johnson got in first ballot and Kuechly didn't. And those arguments are identical.
Dude, it's so crazy because that's kind of where I'm at with both like Antonio Brown, and then we'll also end up getting Julio Jones conversations in a couple of years, right, for first ballot. Because Calvin Johnson precedent says that they should both be first ballot. But Luke Kuechly says that neither of them should, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, Antonio Brown, where does he rank all time? I mean, in terms of like his receiving numbers, not that I think that's the end all be all, but he wasn't exactly. It's crazy because I was looking at his numbers the other day. Man, if he had just stuck with it, he would have ended up like maybe second all time in receiving or something nuts because he still got to 13K in spite of it all. And his last season, he was like 9 yards a target. I just glanced at the efficiency numbers. I'm like, oh, dang, he was not washed. Now, he did have the injuries, and maybe that would have, like, put it over the top, and he kind of would have been done. But, man, if he had any sort of post-Steelers career worth mentioning, he really, really would have been pushing the all-time numbers. I don't think Julio is quite first ballot is kind of my feel. I will say as well, Megatron was in 2020. They let in, like, a bunch of people, and they've also made getting in harder. And I think there's a contingency of voters who are hard asses, particularly about being first ballot. So I think that's part of the issue where they just like to take it from guys and they just think of it as this higher honor that you have to be perfect for.
It is a higher honor.
It is a higher honor, but I don't know.
It should probably just be like the best football players on the ballot. And
it probably should. And then it would naturally be a higher honor itself. I kind of agree, but it is what it is.
And then
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know with Julio. I think I might put him in first ballot.
I would.
I think they're too harsh. I think they're too harsh on receivers. Because that's another one where, especially if you take out Calvin Johnson and you say, look, currently if they were voting, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe we wouldn't with the harsher rules. Like, you know how few guys they let in first ballot at receiver? Larry, I guess now. But outside of that, in the last 30 years, it's like Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and maybe one other guy that's slipping my mind. I mean, it's impossible. Yeah, Calvin.
Yeah. I mean, Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne still aren't in, right? That's kind of the other.
Steve Smith, good old Steve Smith.
And Steve Smith. And
they can make it all up to me with that.
But thank God Devin Hester is in.
That's a whole nother debate. Yeah. Well, at least he is the GOAT at something because these guys aren't. But yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I've on the record so many times saying I don't agree. But Let's talk about the fantasy tight ends here.
All right.
We got 20 of them.
Well, Sherman's the other guy that we didn't talk about, but I don't know if he gets in first ballot.
I don't quite think of him as maybe first ballot. I don't know though. He's pretty good. Sure.
He's got the postseason stuff. He was multiple time first team All Pro. I think 3-time first team All Pro. So it's like I think he can, but him and Antonio Brown, or maybe him and Adrian Peterson, are kind of in the same boat. Where I don't think it's quite as a sure thing as Gronk. Gronk feels pretty set in stone.
Gronk is better than Sherman all time, I would say.
Yeah.
But Sherman, he was like not only a great player, and this is also luck to be fair, but like the Legion of Boom was such a big deal culturally. Like they really dominated that Super Bowl. He was so good at his peak. But I do think sometimes with these positions, they can be a little harsh on longevity. Even the positions where it's like, well, this guy kind of was very good for a while. They don't give as much grace to like corners and running backs and stuff like that. And I guess like his total number of all pro teams isn't that crazy high. I'd have to go look at who else. I think Sherman has a chance at first ballot. I would really think about it.
I was looking at the Pro Football Reference Hall of Fame monitor for DBs, and he is the highest on that list. Not that like it's sort of an arbitrary number, but he is the highest on the list of guys who aren't currently in the Hall of Fame.
I'd really think about him then, but we should get into these tight ends.
We should.
I mean, I feel like I see these listed a new class, and I don't have it in front of me like who all is in the old classes, but I'm always like, yeah. Go for all those guys.
Fair enough.
Eric Weddle, like, yeah, that guy was good.
Eric Weddle was good. Yeah. Fantasy tight ends here. I've got the I've got the average ADP from Fantasy Pros pulled up right now, and we're just gonna go through the top 20 here and tell you who's on our list, who isn't. Trey McBride has been the consensus number one for I feel like months. I feel like he's been the consensus pretty much since this year's ADP started dropping. And
he's not the consensus on a lot of ADPs, I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay. He has been on Fantasy Pros for quite some time. But it's Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and Colston Loveland are the top three. And it seems, at least on here, it looks pretty unanimous, but I could see maybe if there's stuff that's not being included, like sites that aren't being included, then maybe
okay. I feel like I've seen it on ESPN that Bowers is significantly ahead, or maybe on Sleeper as well, but I could be wrong.
I know. So I have Bowers at 1.
I have Bowers at 1 as well.
Really? I'm surprised. I thought you were going to have Loveland. I
have Loveland at 2 and McBride at 3. I'll go ahead and put that's tier 1 to me with kind of, we'll get to who is sort of in a tier by themselves and a weird in between. The thing about Bowers is that he is going to be the focal point of his offense by such a ridiculous degree. Yep. And on top of that, he is so nice that it's really, really hard to beat that combination. Plus, Kubiak is somebody I trust a ton. I think the quarterback play should be serviceable. Not great, but good enough so where it's not like completely hamstringing the entire passing offense, hopefully. And the outside receiver play, or just the non-Brock Bowers receiver play, is not great. Naylor, I think, is interesting. He's been efficient. I'm excited to see him in a role. Besh is somebody who I thought could be decent last year, but hasn't really done too much. But Bowers, I mean, this is like a 2 yards per route run, first team All-Pro guy as a rookie. It's just not that common with tight ends. And maybe now it's a bad time to say that because, God, what did we see last year? But we're really in a very special era of tight end play. The tight ends here at the top are incredibly good. It's a very strong tight end season in fantasy from my perspective. But Bowers is just way too much like the man in Vegas for me not to have him at 1. There's no questions about that. It's only about how often is the passing offense going to throw. But I do think it's fair to point out that JSN, he went for this crazy fantasy season on an offense that didn't throw that much with Kubiak leading the way. So I think it's completely reasonable to expect Bowers to be able to do the same. ultimately, I just felt like if you don't put him at 1, you're kind of fading his talent most likely. And I can't do that. Bowers is too good.
No, Bowers is too good. He was tight end 2 as a rookie. He was tight end 8 last year, despite missing most of the season, or a large portion of the season. And I'm with you. The quarterback situation isn't anything special, but I do think of it as very similar to, there was a year I took Kelsey in the first round of fantasy. Now, I probably didn't finish the year very good in fantasy because I took a tight end in the first round. But my logic there was kind of the same thing, where this was post Tyreek Hill. Kelsey is such a high focal point of this offense that he basically becomes a wide receiver in fantasy, which, like, tight ends are kind of judged on a lower tier than receivers, but if you're getting such high volume, you sort of evolve into that next tier anyway, and you can end up being a top 5 or top 10 receiving option point blank, regardless of position.
For me, I've got it McBride 1, Loveland 2, Bowers 3.
Wow, why do you have Bowers so low?
I'm just not sure that I trust Las Vegas to bring him to tight end 1. I don't know. I feel like McBride last year dealt with pretty rough quarterback play throughout and was 11th all time in tight end receiving yards in a season. He's been over 1,100 yards the last 2 years. And he's really cold. I mean, Bowers is extremely talented. I love Brock Bowers. He's unbelievably fast, perfect route runner, damn near, and can really attack the ball in the air. But McBride is just kind of, I think, a different level of speed and rips off, I think, maybe deeper chunks of yardage when he does catch the football. And I kind of trust him to be just as much of a focal point as anybody in this offense. Like, Marv is Marv, Michael Wilson is Michael Wilson, like Trey McBride is Trey McBride. That doesn't really make sense, but he is like so head and shoulders above where all the other receivers are. And LaFleur, I mean, I don't know how similar he's going to be to Matt LaFleur, but I think Matt LaFleur is really good at getting Tucker Kraft the ball and weaponizing some of these check and releases in the play action game. Like, he's cracked at getting, like, Kraft was very heavily involved last year. I thought that was some of the best stuff in the offense was LaFleur using Musgrave and Kraft, and Musgrave is kind of this field stretcher to rip open seams for Kraft while being in this like run heavy personnel, forcing someone in the box. Maybe I think that maybe the other LaFleur can do something similar. I think, yes, Kubiak did a great job getting JSN the ball last year, but JSN was, a wide receiver, and it's, I think, a little bit easier maybe to have him dominate the target share in a run heavy approach than it would be a tight end, potentially, if they still want to like really pound the rock and establish everything off wide zone. I don't know. I mean, LaFleur is pretty similar in terms of mentality, so maybe they're about the same, but McBride being the tight end 1 last year with 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, I just couldn't find a lot of reason to bring him down. It's not like Bowers has gotten a way better break of things, or that Las Vegas all of a sudden looks like, real contenders after being sloppy last season. I don't know. I just kept McBride at number 1, really.
So I would say the big change for McBride is that there has got to be no way that he's on an offense that throws as many times as Arizona did last year. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they led in passing attempts. Yeah, the game scripts late in the year were just totally ridiculous. They'd be throwing. I mean, Brissett was setting like records because of how often they were throwing.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to do that with LaFleur. And they also brought in Jeremiah Love, which is a pretty big investment at running back. I figure he's going to be on an offense that is way, way more run heavy. Now, it's possible that the defense is just still really bad, and sorry, you're going to get down and you're going to have to throw a lot. But I could also say that for the Raiders. I could also say for the Raiders that they're probably going to be pretty run heavy, and they have a high investment at running back. So
yes, they do.
I think the situations are actually kind of similar, except I think there's a little bit more receiving competition for Arizona. and that makes me give Bowers the edge. On top of that, I think there's a good chance that regardless of how Brissett plays, it could be Beck later in the year. And if that's the case, I don't feel awesome. I don't trust Beck a ton. Mendoza, I have a little bit more faith in, albeit he does maybe have a tendency to take some negative plays. So who knows, maybe they have a hard time staying on the field and that hurts Bowers. I don't think McBride as tight end 1 is unfair at all. I agree that he's a tier 1 tight end in real life, but I do think in terms of him repeating what he did last year, it would be tough to replicate what allowed him to do that. I think he ran over 100 more routes than the next closest tight end. I mean, it was ridiculous how favorable that offense was. Or like, look at Michael Wilson down the stretch, right? Yeah. I think Michael Wilson's a good player too, but it's just hard to repeat. Although he had like half of his production in the final 4 or 5 weeks or something, so that's not quite the same as Trey McBride, but still.
Yeah, absolutely. Arizona was first in pass attempts per game last year, and Las Vegas was 22nd. But I don't know, maybe things that's still a tendency. Who knows? But I put McBride at 1. I think McBride is honestly, the edge to me is like, I thought McBride's speed maybe gave him a little bit of a talent advantage over Bowers. Like, Bowers is really technically sound. 100% is like James Bond smooth criminal out there. And then McBride is just like hair on fire, flying around, explosive route stems that really cannot be matched by any other tight end that maybe has played in a long time, to be honest with you. Like, he is just so fast. There's one guy faster in the entire league, and it's Sadiq. Sadiq might be the only one faster, but I feel like McBride has, like, it looks
Stowers is pretty fast too.
Stowers is pretty fast. Sadiq's like, I think, on a different level of speed.
Sadiq is on a completely different level. Sadiq is more explosive too. His acceleration off the line, that's wild. My feeling, I guess I haven't watched the Vanderbilt tape in a minute. I feel like Stowers is a little bit more of a rev up than Sadiq. But regardless, I don't disagree at all about how good McBride is. I think he could very easily finish as tight end 1. But ultimately, my favorite guy of this tier is the one that you can get still the latest in the draft. He has moved up in a lot of formats significantly, and rightfully so. But it's Colston Loveland. Loveland is number 2 for me. I couldn't quite put him at 1, but I think he has a really good chance too. Now, he's a little bit of a different evaluation than McBride and Bowers, who are in relatively, like we just said, similar situations. Loveland is in a completely different place, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if you really believe in him. The 2 big negatives about Loveland that are keeping him down right now are, number 1, very small sample size of him being like a true tier 1 guy, right? It was only really towards the end of last season. And then number 2 is that there is a lot of serious competition on the offense. And even if you believe in Marvin Harrison and believe in Wilson, you can still pretty easily see McBride as the number 1. We don't necessarily feel like we are as certain that Loveland will be the one. But I'm going to be honest. What Loveland was doing at the end of last year, you just can't fake. He, I think, is right up there as a route runner, as a smooth player who can get open and be effective in short yardage and has these reliable hands, yes, but also really can attack the field deep and be used in any way. Ben Johnson invested the 10th overall pick, which was seen as pretty insanely high at the time. And over the course of his rookie year, he went from somebody who couldn't consistently see the field to completely unbelievable. He had 47 targets in the final 4 games, if you include the playoffs. He only kept getting better and better. My feeling is he didn't just get hot at the right time. He really is that guy. Burden and Adunze are great players, but Loveland was already turning into the man by the end of the season. I love Ben Johnson. I love Caleb Williams. And importantly, this is an offense that threw a lot. It's probably going to throw more than Arizona, throw more than Las Vegas. And I think their defense is going to be really rough next year.
Horrible.
It didn't really get that much better. They did replace some of the guys they lost in the secondary, and I do like those moves in a vacuum, but ultimately they were a below average defense with the second most turnovers. Turnovers are very high variance. There's a real chance they have a terrible, terrible D and a great offense, and they are in shootouts week in and week out. That would be awesome for Loveland in fantasy. I just think he's the guy in Chicago. I'm not as certain necessarily as the other two, but the upside, if we're right, is that he could go for something really, really special. And he was also only 21 as a rookie. He was a really young rookie at a position where you're not supposed to be able to get away with being that young. Loveland can, because as much as he is a tight end, he's a receiver, and he's just a threat in every part of the field like a receiver would be. So I couldn't be higher on Loveland right now.
He's easy to keep on the field. He's a solid blocker. Like it is crazy how much lower Loveland is being taken than McBride and Bowers here. McBride is the 21st overall player, and Bowers is the 25th overall player. Loveland is the 49th. Like, we're talking like 2 whole rounds later,
right?
To get Loveland.
Even if I say, let's play it safe and put Loveland at 3, which is totally fair.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to take Bowers and McBride in the drafts that I look at and not be like, I could just take whoever I want here and wait around and almost certainly still get Loveland. Right. And it's like, I feel basically just as good about that. And I'm betting on one of the guys that I think is going to be good, which is always more fun than being like, well, this is solid value, but not like a dude I think is going to be the Bowers and McBride are good. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Loveland, he's a lot like Travis Kelce, I feel like. And Travis Kelce has the most yards in a tight end season ever. Like, Loveland, again, crazy fast, gets down the field from all kinds of different spots. Like, they'll put him at fullback, he'll chip somebody, and he's still a deep threat. He's so fast. Yeah. Like, and it's hard to cover him when he's, like, chipping you as a fullback. Everybody tends to forget about him, and then he's off to the races, tearing a hole in your zone coverage. His change of direction running routes is great. He can be that kind of intermediate dig, catch and run threat. He can fake like he's running a crosser and turn it back out towards the sideline and beat you that way. He eats contact when he catches the ball, just bounces off of it a lot of the time. I mean, his game winner against Cincinnati is absolutely ridiculous as an example of that. He just checks every box. I think he's probably a fine blocker more than like a Cole Kmet great blocker, but they've got Cole Kmet, so they don't need him to be. I always think I'm pretty impressed with his ability to torque guys out of the play and meet with people when he's kind of on the run way downfield. Like, he takes great angles and tends to make good contact even while he's at really high speed. He might be the best blocker out of Fannin, Warren, and himself. Like, and he's also the best receiver. Like, it was a great rookie tight end class last year, and I watched all these guys pretty extensively to try to figure out who I liked best, because they were all pretty great and all ended pretty similar statistically, and they are all great. But I think I felt pretty comfortable saying Loveland is the best. And certainly when you look at the situation and how he's Caleb's number one weapon, right, I think by far, like on an offense that figures to be top 10, like, yeah, this guy could be the number one tight end pretty easily when you factor in. He reminds me of Travis Kelce and Caleb Williams kind of reminds me of Patrick Mahomes, to be honest with you. Like,
here's a guy.
You feel it. You feel like it could be something special between those two, that they've got a special talent level that can carry an offense to the top of the league with kind of just the two of them.
And the blocking really doesn't worry me at all. If you're like, well, is Kmet maybe the number one, like, inline blocker? Maybe, but Loveland certainly is no scrub. And regardless, he's such a high priority. Who are you putting in the slot? If you want to put somebody in the slot, you're Loveland. Yeah. He can move all around. He can do all sorts of stuff. Right, exactly. Yeah, Michigan used to do that too. Like, he is just that type of player. And on top of that, like, for what it's worth, Adunze coming off a weird foot injury. Burden suffered an injury today. Yeah, he's got a groin problem. So I'm not necessarily very low on either of those guys, to be honest with you. I like their outlooks too. Honestly, my feeling is that it might be this offense is just so high volume that it can support all of them at their current ADP, unless Burden is getting up. I know for a time he was way up, and I think he's dropped some since, and certainly will now. But I just think they all have pretty good outlooks. And you did get off of DJ Moore, and even then they all had stretches last season where they were really producing or super efficient or have some, like, clear room to improve, like Adunze with his contested catch numbers being so bad. And you're like, man, those really probably should be better just running it back again, right? I mean, it's not a guarantee, but I feel great about Loveland. I feel great about the offense. We've talked about it every episode of the fantasy stuff, but I feel strongly. So
Yeah.
that would be my top 3.
Yeah, who do you guys have at 4 and 5? That's, I think, where maybe it gets.
I go Warren Fannin after here.
Okay, I went Warren kind of in a tier of his own.
Okay.
Yep.
I would say. And then I went Kraft, but there's like 3 guys in the tier after that for me.
I went Fannin 4 and then Warren 5.
I see the vision.
I cannot in good faith trust this Browns quarterback situation to I do think Fannin is going to get a lot of burn. I do, because he got a lot of burn last year. But if you're asking me to pick him above Warren, like, I think him and Warren are kind of a similar archetype of player. And I think Warren's in a much better situation.
I completely agree. I might prefer Fannin as a receiver more, I would say, in a vacuum. But the gap in offense is just way too big. There is some truth to a player like Fannin, I think, being a good, bad offense player.
Yes.
If you have a quarterback who's kind of limited, if you have a team that maybe their defense won't be as good, or like last year, they just get in like a lot of shootouts, and well, their defense won't be as good, but it doesn't project to be like terrible or anything.
Yeah.
It's like maybe like they're just dumping it down to Fannin a ton. I've seen some other fantasy guys. I think so too. I've seen some other fantasy guys on like Twitter express some concern about, adding all these rookies in, like Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion. And I get that in theory, but in reality, dude, Fannin is so dang. First off, they're rookies. Second off, Fannin is so dang good. He's the focal point no matter what. Boston and Casey could be a hit, and he's probably still going to be the focal point, I would guess.
Yeah.
And I just think there's going to be so much short work, so much screen game, so many dump offs to him that I don't know. I feel like he's still going to eat up and get a bunch of targets. Maybe there's some risk that Casey, they want to get the ball in his hands too, though. But Njoku being gone, I think, is a really good thing, because Njoku also would take some of those touches for his, up and down as he was last year. He was taking some of those touches, especially early in the year, and he's like more of the inline guy, and then he gets like banged up and comes back and isn't quite the same and all that stuff. But I think Fannin is still a really, really good bet. I really like him. I have him at 6. I don't want to be too low on him at all.
Yep.
But the offense, the quarterback play is like, oh, this is like the worst quarterback room. This is, and it's like, oh man. What worries me especially about them, and you've brought this up before, Theo, is how often are they going to take negative plays? And are they going to play themselves off the field over and over? Because that's what you can't live with. Yeah. Whereas like if you had, I don't know, like a Flacco or somebody in there where it's this savvy vet who can't get hit and he can't deal with pressure. He's got to get the ball out. That's the guy I want.
Maybe Watson becomes...
Watson doesn't get the ball out.
He might not actually give a shit at all about winning either.
Bro, he's got so much fucking money.
He's playing to be able to go home on time. No OT.
Play to throw it to Fannin. Play to throw it to Fannin, Mr. Watson. Play for your fantasy team.
So that's my worry about Fannin, I guess, now that I'm talking through it, is that the quarterbacks just are not that type of bad. They're not that type of limited that you would really want. They're more of like a hold on to the ball for a long time and take a sack and ruin the whole drive, rather than like, well, we're at least getting Fannin his PPR. We're giving him a chance to get out.
They don't have Jameis this year, dude. Like,
I know.
If they had Jameis, I'd be in. I would be Fannin would be number 4. Would he be top 3? No, he wouldn't be top 3.
Nah, I don't think so.
It'd be hard.
This is another one where I just might like Fannin more than I like Warren, like as a player.
That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly
there's
what
no question.
Like,
it might be. Yeah, maybe.
It might be. I might look at Warren. I mean, Warren, he didn't have he needs to take some sort of step, I believe, into becoming more of a downfield weapon for the Colts. Like he kind of was really hot right out of the gates last year. And it was a lot of kind of like boot out. He's in the flat open and maybe that's still, or even in college, they'd snap it to him and he'd run Wildcat. They did that for him. Fannin was more of like a true downfield, like
I agree.
receiver type, picking up big chunks of yardage. And the other thing I love about Fannin is he's just got an element of just an edge to him that might be the best in the league at like this one specific thing, which is just like pure toughness at the catch point and toughness after the catch. Like this guy rumbles like nobody else. He'll catch it off a bobble or in a contested situation like nobody else. Like he is such a friendly target and a quarterback's best friend because like you can get away with some of the worst ill-advised throws. And not only will he catch it, he'll break the tackle and go. I think Warren is good. The problem with Warren is he's good. Not the problem, but the problem with fading Warren on the basis of that is like Warren also is really good at those things. I just think Fannin's a little bit better, a little bit farther down the field on an offense that I could see ultimately throwing it more because they don't employ Jonathan Taylor on their football team. And I think their defense has a chance to be worse than.
Or maybe they end up throwing it less because their quarterbacks take a lot of sacks and they're not on the field.
Yeah, the Browns rushing game will probably be bad again, quite frankly. And like, man, what if something happens to Judkins again, or he's not 100%? Like, or the offensive line isn't actually all that much better. All real possibilities where they end up having to throw it a ton. I don't think the vision on Fannin really high is crazy at all.
Yeah, I also Warren, I got right after him. Warren, I got right after him because he's also a quarterback's best friend, and he's got a proven good play caller in a better quarterback situation. And I mean, look at Dallas Goddard last year and all the touchdowns he got, like just skating up at the like. Could a Warren just feast on touchdowns because he's got so many different ways to get the ball down around the goal line? Like, I think Warren is a good player for sure, but Fannin, I just like him a little bit more. And at the end of the day, I'm going to rank him kind of just by who I like and who I want.
I agree that I think Fannin's a little smoother down the field as a route runner for sure, whereas Warren has a lot more size on him and it's more difficult. I regret kind of underselling Fannin and his ability to be a deeper player. But at the same time, you do have to give Warren credit for not getting as tired as we thought maybe he possibly could be and could be out of a bunch of different games. No,
Warren was great. I was undersold Warren for sure because Warren has like Luther Burden, like catch and break and just stop and loop in. Like it's pretty crazy. They're kind of similar. Like they're kind of gadgety at this point in their career with ridiculous yak, but you're kind of hoping that things kind of push forward as things go on, and it's not a bad bet.
True. They come in very different packages, but I agree. Both of these guys are really extreme yak players. The tackle breaking ability, they both have some crazy ones. And I wish I could be like, these are the two best yak players or yak tight ends in the NFL, but I can't quite do it because of somebody else. Mr. Kraft. Regardless, with Warren, I will say this. It is true that he didn't get as many deep targets as these other guys. He only had 3 past 20 yards, but he was second in intermediate targets. And as much as I agree about like Warren maybe not being the deep ball player that a lot of these other guys that we've ranked so far are, he also did get limited by Phillip Rivers, which is a disaster level quarterback option to have.
He's got less of an excuse than Alec Pierce, but it's still bad.
It was still pretty bad, and they just couldn't run many plays. They just couldn't do very much. I mean, you forget how bad Rivers' arm was, but I think it's the worst arm I've seen any quarterback have in an NFL game in my life, pretty much.
That's a good question. What is
dude? It's got to be. What could even possibly? Maybe Manning in 2015. Hackenberg. Was Hackenberg's arm that slow though? No way, right?
I'd have to go back. I just know that
honestly,
like he basically had to go out of the league because like the ball would like slip out of his hand, so he never even got a shot. Basically.
Well, he never played. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, we don't know. That's a great point.
But I just think that even if you like Fannin deeper, I still think Warren can do more. It's just like there isn't that deep ball, and the difference in offense is just way too wide for me. Yeah. That's the problem. There are good outcomes on the bad offense, and I do think Fannin survives it, but there's also bad outcomes too, and I think I got to weight those as well. I'm interested to see how much Warren gets used. I mean, Downs is banged up. Pierce is, I mean, really, they're keeping very quiet about where he is right now in terms of his recovery. And we think like he could be back for week 1, but they also said a couple of weeks ago that he'd be back in a couple of weeks, and now they're not saying anything. Maybe they're just secretive, but it's worth watching.
I think they're just kind of trying to land this plane where he gets ready week 1 and doesn't re-aggravate anything. But like, it stinks that it's not just like normal, all systems go. He's making ridiculous catches in training camp for sure.
Regardless, he could, I mean, there's a lot of targets missing in Indianapolis. Somebody has to get them. I believe Josh Downs gets some. I believe if they paid Pierce like that, he probably gets some. But if Warren gets some too, and Daniel Jones is supposedly back and up to speed, he's going to be fantastic next season. And I think he would have the upside if, like, maybe he can get some cool stuff around the goal line. Maybe it's not all Taylor, potentially, you'd be crossing your fingers about. If that's the case, then he's got, the potential to be up there with these other guys that we talked about as true tier 1 dudes. So I have Warren 4, and I had Kraft at 5. I love Tucker Kraft. I think Tucker Kraft, he is an easy guy to love. I think he's the best blocker among all tight ends in the NFL right now. I think he's the best after the catch. It's honestly pretty incredible how much velocity he runs with. I've been saying velocity all offseason. He is the man who started that, because you watch him and it's just a different level of force moving towards a goal line where it's like, there's just no way they're going to be able to stop him. Now, the numbers last year were like over 10 yards of yak per reception. He had 370 yak yards on like 32 catches. And people are like, well, that's a sample size thing. And I'm like, right. But the Packers do put him in good position to, go and make plays like that. And also it does reflect that he is, I think, the best in that regard, even with Fannin and Warren being as good as they are, and they're so good. I like the Packers offense, I think, a decent amount in terms of its passing.
We all do. We all love it. Yep.
I'm worried about the offensive line, but ultimately I think that there is a chance that if the defense continues to struggle and the offensive line isn't as great, and LaFleur is saying, hey, we might need to throw the ball more because we've been so efficient, I kind of believe him. I kind of believe it because they really should, and a lot of different things line up to say, you're going to need to. You're going to be playing, Chicago and Detroit and all these great teams. And like, you really should let Love do his thing. And you really should get Tucker Kraft the ball as much as possible. But I would also say there are a number of targets on that team still that are probably going to demand a decent amount of work. Definitely more so than Fannin. So the question for me is, how do you weight the volume, potential, and the talent of the offense with the number of guys who are going to demand work around him, and then just the overall talent with Kraft also coming off of a pretty significant injury, albeit he's had a really nice ramp up period apparently, and it's been a long time. It's not like he tore it in January or something like that.
I've got Kraft at 7. The only thing that concerns me is how much of a yak monster he is with the ACL. I don't know if that matters at all, but like that's it seems like maybe there could be a little bit of a, maybe it's 2 years off the ACL where he's fully back or something like that. And but yeah, I mean, he makes people in wheelchairs stand up. Like he's exciting. You get him the ball. He's prone to make a spectacular catch. He's crazy physical in all aspects. And yeah, just rips off tons of big gains. And LaFleur it's probably the thing he was best at last year, was just getting Kraft the ball with a runway in front of him. Like he was so good. Maybe there's a little bit more of a focus on that too, of like, they're just trying to get Kraft the ball in space, and like on the broadcast, it just is like, man, people are there. Like they're really focused on taking him away. They're rotating safeties down hard to the flat, something like that. But I think Kraft, even if that is the case, is still a threat up the seams and still a threat to make big plays down the field. And this entire Packers receiving room is so fast that it's going to be a little bit tough to guard Kraft underneath anyway.
That's true.
I want to see it again from him. I kind of want to see him reprove himself after the injury, but I'm overall pretty optimistic about Kraft. I'd say to get him back to never before seen levels from him. I think there's still some growth, and he could be in line for a career year.
I agree. There's probably some my guy ball going on with me having Kraft at 5, but I really think he's also somebody who has just consistently gotten more work and gotten better and gotten more efficient over the course of his career. That's why I was kind of high on him a couple of years ago. It's like they're really getting him in there. And since then, he's always done a great job, just like getting better and better and finding a bigger role and looking more like, I don't know if I would say he's a tier 1 tight end, but he's very tier 1 at the things that he's good at. And it kind of depends. If you wanted this flavor of tight end, it'd be hard to beat Kraft. So yeah, I believe in the talent.
Support for today's episode comes from our good friends over at Square, the business platform that helps sellers become neighborhood favorites. Whether you're running a busy local shop, a restaurant, or even a small business on the side, Square brings your payments, POS, inventory, online orders, and staff management together all in one place. I actually love seeing Square when I'm out at a local business because you can tell when the checkout process is just smoother. Nobody's fumbling around, the payment is quick, and the business can focus on the customers instead of the transaction. And if you're looking to grow or just make your day-to-day a little bit easier, Square is now offering listeners up to $200 off Square hardware when you sign up at square.com/go/stayhot. That's square.com/go/stay hot. Square helps you run your business more smoothly by bringing payment operations and insights together all in one place so you're ready for whatever's next. And right now, once again, listeners can get up to $200 off Square hardware when you sign up at square.com/go/stay-hot. Again, that is square.com/go/stay-hot. Get started with Square and build a setup that works the way you do. And just like Square makes it easier for businesses to keep everything all in one place, Dabble makes it easier for us to keep all our picks and all of our friends' picks together in one place. Because this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Dabble Fantasy. One of the reasons we've been enjoying Dabble is it feels like more than just another DFS app. You can follow your friends or creators, see what everyone's playing, and interact with people before kickoff. We'll be posting our favorite NFL future picks before the season starts, along with all our weekly entries throughout the year. So make sure you follow the Stay Hot Pod profile on the app, copy our plays, and if you like them, leave comments and let's sweat every Sunday together. Download Dabble today, use the code Stay Hot, and when you play your first $5, you'll get $10 in bonus cash.
Speaking of buying into the talent and playing my guy ball, Theo, where do you have Kyle Pitts ranked?
I have him one spot above Kraft at number 6. Tight end 2 last season.
He was tight end 2 last season.
He actually hit.
He did.
And he's pretty ridiculous still. Like he's become this big joke and this, ultimate hypothetical player. But that's the thing about these hypothetical players is like usually they're pretty fucking talented, and that's why everybody likes them.
Just like Matt Corral, man.
Right. But Pitts, 900 yards last season, unbelievable catch radius still, unbelievable ability to catch it and keep going. I'm really intrigued about, maybe not really intrigued, a little bit intrigued about what his repertoire is if Tua is the starter and they get a little bit more of that ability to break in balls right there and you catch and run. I really think that play makes Tua more valuable than Penix. I got to be honest with you. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, if you can farm... If you can farm
Kyle Pitts a lot of targets, I don't know, man. I think you got to start him. I really do.
You do.
Whoever
Watch
gets
Kyle
Drake
Pitts.
London more targets, that's the better quarterback.
Look up his catch and run versus the Bills in 2022, I think, Kyle Pitts. If he's still got that in there, he could lead all tight ends in receiving yards because it's pretty unbelievable how fluid he can be catching it and running it. Sometimes I think he gets a little stoppy, like he'll be in open space and he'll like completely stop down, like, oh, I'm about to find somebody and make them miss. Like, no, bro, keep going. keep going at as high as a speed as possible. And sometimes he doesn't do that. But when he is at a full tilt, I mean, he'll stiff arm you. He's prone to jump over you. He's ridiculously fast. And of course, the catch radius away from his frame, like one hand waving the ball around if he needs to do that, like, is what stands out the most. So as far as receiving talent goes for all of these tight ends, like, Pitts is up there with, honestly, but like Bowers and McBride, I think. Like, he's up there with anybody. But the problem is he's, I think, still in Atlanta. I still think that him and London together on the field at the same time isn't ideal. 2 years ago, I said, or before last season, I said that this would be Pitt's breakout year. 2026 would be the breakout year because he'll be out of Atlanta at that point and will be kind of in more of that X receiver role like he was as a rookie when he had 1,000 yards. But London got hurt, and like Pitts had a 200-yard game in his absence against the Buccaneers, and the Falcons ended up bringing him back. And I'm still not convinced that those two don't like overlap a little bit. It's weird. I don't quite trust this offense with those two together to like boost Kyle Pitts to like this tight end one finish. But I really do think he's got the talent to be the most productive tight end in the league.
I don't think he's as good as McBride or Loveland or Bowers. I just don't feel like he's that type of route runner. I don't think he's
maybe not. Maybe not the cuts.
I do have to agree there. He did have the most targets and the most receptions of his career last year and the most touchdowns.
He did.
But that has to be attributed to some level to Drake London getting hurt, right?
That's true. He did do particularly well when Drake London was out. I don't particularly trust the offense either. The quarterback play has like true disaster potential. It's not just bad, especially with how injury prone Tua and Penix are. It's like if 100%. It got to after that, God forbid, like what is Pitts going to be able to do? I do think he's going to see an amount of work that could potentially be comparable to what he did last year. He was second in targets among tight ends, I believe, only behind McBride. So clearly, like, he's somebody who can handle a high volume. But at the same time, with how highly he ranked in scoring, Laporta hurt, Fannin rookie, Kraft hurt, Warren rookie, McBride beat him, Loveland rookie, Bowers hurt.
Yeah.
So everybody above him is either going into year 2 for me or is coming off of an injury. So for that reason, I don't know if it automatically makes me feel like, well, why wouldn't he be back if you think that he's going to see a big workload again? I think he could, but there's also a lot of other guys who are in line for big workloads. Honestly, if any of these dudes saw under 100 targets, it would be pretty bad. It'd be pretty unreal. Maybe Kraft doesn't quite get there and just has to be really efficient with what he gets because he wasn't quite pacing for it last year, but still. I have him at 8. I think there's real crazy upside with him too. I think there's a couple of other guys that I have him in a tier with that have pretty good upside. And then I think the tight end position really starts to fall off in fantasy.
Yeah, I have Laporta above Pitts here at 7. I was worried that I was going to be a little bit lower on him just because there is a lot of guys, right, that you kind of have to get the ball to with Gibbs and St. Brown and J-Mo. And I've been getting really high on Tesla recently, his spectacular catches. I feel like eventually they're going to just be hard to keep off the field in some capacity. But Laporta was on pace for his best year as a pro last year, 10 yards per target. And he was on pace for, almost 1,000 yards last year. I really do think he's gonna be in line for a pretty big season, and I just think that Lions offense is really good, right? And to some level, you have to trust the good offenses with the good players, right? And if he was on pace for that kind of a year last year, I think he can be on pace for it again this year with a healthier season. So
yeah, super efficient, 4th in yards per route run. 7th in points per game without like a great tight end scoring season, albeit he just played 9. I think he's in line for a ton of work again. I think that the Lions could be really high volume. We've talked about our questions with their secondary before. So I also have him at 7 and then Pitts at 8.
That brings us to kind of the back stretch of this top 10. On Fantasy Pros, it's Dallas Goedert at 9, George Kittle at 10. Dallas Goedert at 9 is a little confusing to me. Like, I understand that AJ Brown is gone, and so that maybe he could see just like a higher influx of targets because of that. But I feel like bringing in Lemon and bringing in Stowers would be pretty negative indicators for Bauer or for Goddard. No,
I don't have Goddard in my top 20. I would say stay away from Dallas Goedert and do not draft him under any circumstances. The one thing Kevin Patullo is good at is getting Dallas Goedert the ball in the end zone in all different manners of ways. I mean, you take those away and like, I don't even know if he's going to be seeing the field. Like, they draft Stowers in the second round. Like, is that not just a replacement? This is an older tight end who is getting less and less productive, who is basically farming goal line touchdowns last year. Like, this is just something that you could buy into expensively and have the bottom completely fall out on you. I feel like this is just a complete scary situation. I don't know why it's this high. It's really just because it's like, oh, he finished high last year, so he's going to have a lot of touchdowns again. But I don't know. I don't know about that. I want absolutely nothing to do with Dallas Goedert on my fantasy team at all.
I have mixed feelings. I completely agree that 11 touchdowns, more than double his career high, is probably not going to happen again. I agree that even with letting Brown go, they bring in other targets, and maybe it's not going to be Goddard to go and get a bunch more work. Plus, Goddard, he almost had a career high in terms of his targets. And he is getting older. The efficiency has not been crazy good. But I don't think that Stowers is going to replace him. Like, in terms of getting on the field, I mean, Stowers cannot block.
right?
Cannot be an inline player at all.
You don't get fantasy points for blocking.
No, but you do get on the field.
Yeah.
And I'm a little interested, like, is it going to be Lemon outside all the time? Because right now out of camp, it sounds like it's going to be Wicks is going to be the outside player. And it's like, okay, well then how does Stowers get on the field over Lemon? That would be the path. That's not a good recipe for him, I don't think. It would be in 12P and you'd need to be in over Lemon if Smith is on the outside too. I wonder how much Stowers is going to play year one. That's my question about him. He might be more of a long-term bet for Philadelphia. I don't dislike him. I just think with the blocking, maybe the room isn't open up right away. But would you go Lemon and Stowers and say, well, both these guys are slot only? Probably not. So maybe that's an overreaction. Regardless, I'm not high on Goddard. I don't have him outside of my top 20, but that's more of a statement about the tight ends in this
Yeah, I mean,
in this range rather than
some of the guys you'd have to have.
Yeah, name somebody.
Him is Dalton Schultz.
I don't have him in my top 20 either.
Who do you have in your top 20?
I don't think that's crazy not to have Schultz. I mean,
No, I'm just saying, like,
who do I
AJ
have?
Barnard, Chig Okonkwo, like
Chig I have in my top 20.
Okay.
Chig I've got. Barner I might take above Goddard, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe what you do is you say, I mean, is Goddard going to be a great blocker either? Maybe you just juice the receiving ability and just live with bad blocking tight ends and go out there and throw it to Stowers anyway. Like, who cares if he can't block? We're going to ask him to run a route. And if he's blocking, like, he's not going to be, Darnell Washington at the point of attack. So I think him being older and then basically drafting his replacement makes me think like this is old Adam Thielen. Like, this is just somebody that we don't need to skirt the line. Like, we skirt the line on Derrick Henry and push him down to like as low as he can go with how good he is, because you're like, oh, he's getting old. Is the wheels going to fall off? Why is Goddard like, this is not Goddard at the lowest he could go. Like, even though they spent so much to replace him. I don't know.
If
Get
he's
me
tight
away
in
from
9,
Dallas.
I agree. If he's
Yeah.
tight in 9, Jesus, yeah. If I have him at like tight in 14 or whatever, then it's like, who cares? You know?
I have him at 13.
I have, to round out my top 10, at 9, I have George Kittle. At 10, I have Dalton Kincaid.
9, I have Kittle. At 10, I have Isaiah Likely.
You're big on
8,
Likely.
At 8, I have Kincaid. At 9, I have Kittle. At 10, I have Brenton Strange.
You know, I had a feeling you were going to be high on Brenton Strange.
He's a good player.
He's a good player, but like,
It's really high. He's super low. This is a guy that I would take. Like, you don't have to take him that high, and it's easy to say, like, I'll just put him in his tier, but atop of this is like way above, I think, where his ADP is. But I just
18.
So you don't have Sam Laporta in your top 10?
I do not.
I think that's crazy.
That's insane.
Bro, too many weapons there. Too many weapons.
Okay, there were too many weapons last year. And
this is why Jamison Williams is not a good bet. It's not why Sam Laporta is not a good bet.
Maybe. But Jamison Williams, I mean, has just so much, like, he doesn't need to get a lot of targets within the offense if things spread out because he can lead the league in yards per reception. I feel like Laporta is just getting more and more pushed down to like underneath catch and run useful, like third down type guy. I feel like that's more and more the role he fills in this offense. And like you said, Blaiden, I think Tesla is probably someone that is due for a little bit more of a workload because every time they targeted him, he did something spectacular last season. And man, I look at some of these NFC North breakout candidates, and then you look at Luther Burden going into his second year, and you look at Matthew Golden going into his second year, and then you look at like Isaac Tesla, and you're like, his tape is like about as good as any of those guys. I feel like it's just that he's so far down the pecking order, but maybe he deserves a little bit more of a workload too. And he's down the field. I just think Laporta last season was very, like, his average depth of target plummeted. His success rate went way up. I mean, he had a 56% success rate when he was targeted in 2024. It went up to 69% last year. I think it's just because he was just targeted so low down the field, and it was kind of easy for him to catch it and at least get some positive yardage and keep the, stay on schedule and keep the chains moving. But I feel like it's very crowded for him to get targets there, more than maybe any other room in all of football.
Well, I mean, Jamison Williams got less targets than him in the 9 games they played together, and then had a big target bump when Laporta left. I think that you're really underselling him now.
He's a great player. He's a great player.
And he's 4th in yards per route run. His efficiency is fantastic. Yeah. I don't see, I mean, Tesla, great contested catch guy. I see the vision on that, but I don't know if I agree with the assumption that it's going to be Laporta as the odd man out. I don't think there's necessarily going to be any dude where it's like this guy's getting 40 targets or anything, but I don't know. I think between a potential volume increase in the passing offense and just the fact that he already kind of was the second receiving weapon last year, I think Laporta I would have over Strange, who is in a much more crowded room with a bunch of different
Parker
guys.
Washington is not Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Brian Thomas Jr. is not Jamison Williams, and Bashal Tutin is not Jahmyr Gibbs.
Why? Hold on. You're saying Brian Thomas Jr. is not Jamison Williams? Like, Jamison Williams is like this like super established elite wide receiver.
Yeah, he's got 1,000 yards the last 2 years. Brian Thomas Jr. was shitty last season.
Yeah, he was.
And Lawrence ain't Jared Goff. I feel like if Lawrence was the Lions quarterback, I'd have more faith that everybody could eat, because I think Lawrence is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. I think Strange is in a less crowded room. I think he stands out more with his skill set with a better quarterback throwing to him. And especially down around the goal line, I feel like there's going to be much more of a focus on getting Brenton Strange the ball. And he's a good route runner, reliable hands, really crafty after the catch. He's very well rounded, like Laporta is. I don't know if there's a huge gap in those two players, or Brenton Strange and any player.
Well, then there's been a big gap in how much they're used and how relevant they've been in fantasy. I like Strange. I don't want to argue against him. But okay, if we want to go one for one, first off, Brian Thomas Jr. did have a bad year last year, but over the last 2 seasons, he's had more targets than Jameson Williams. Fair. Now, I know that here's the thing. I do know that Jameson Williams would be first team All-Pro every year if it wasn't for the evil Amon-Ra St. Brown taking all those targets away. Me and everybody else, we know. But like, is Isaac Tesla, is he Travis Hunter?
Maybe.
I don't know. What about Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington? I don't know why won't Parker Washington get a big volume increase? Why not?
He could, but he's not Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is going to be.
But I know with Laporta he's fantasy relevant. So why does it matter that we know with Amon-Ra St. Brown, but not we know with Laporta?
Yeah, I mean, we know Laporta is relevant. But do we know he's in
really
like a different
good
tier than Brenton Strange in fantasy relevancy? He's never had 900 yards.
In terms of his like fantasy relevance, like, yes, we do. He has been. I'm not even low on Laporta. I like Laporta. I like Strange as a bet. I think he's a really good bet. When I look down through the list, it's like, okay, so we haven't talked about Kittle and Kincaid yet, but after that, it's like Mark Andrews coming off a really bad year.
Yeah.
It's all a volume bet. Kelsey, I get it, but like he's only gotten worse. Goddard, really old, touchdown dependent, likely mostly a situation bet with him. I feel like he's been okay, but never really has broken out the way that he's always been promised to. Jake Ferguson kind of feasted off of the receiver situation a little bit and had some good touchdown luck as mostly like an underneath guy. Chigakonko, I like okay. Juwan Johnson, I like pretty decently as kind of the third and like a high volume offense, and he can really run deep, and maybe one of those receivers goes down, and there's a good path for him. I like Strange.
I got Johnson high.
Dulcich is fun because he's I guess the number one in Miami.
He actually
I don't know. Someone hypothetically has to.
It's very unethical hoops to take him as your tight end one, but it could be.
I'm not saying he's a tight end one, but I think his ADP is also like really low, so that's why he's interesting.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry, his situation got worse, and he wasn't even like a tight end one last year. Gadsden, I'm a little worried about him. I know he's a rookie coming off like a really productive year, but his role might be kind of screwed up in that offense. I think there's potential for it.
Okay. I can do this. Here's what I'll give you. I'm like Pawn Stars right now. I can give you Laporta 12, but that's as high as I can go. I'll go Laporta 12 because.
So then you have Juwan Johnson above.
Yeah, I've got Juwan Johnson at 11.
I like Juwan Johnson though.
But you have Laporta at 7, Blaiden. So you're like, this guy's absolutely beyond the pale.
I have him at 7 too.
I'm blown away that you're like, dude, Laporta was fantasy tight end 1 as a rookie. He was fantasy tight end 6 in 2024, and then he drops because he played like 8 games last year.
Yeah, right. He's coming off an injury. He's coming off an injury. He played like 4 fewer games than Brenton Strange, and they were like the same fantasy ranking last year. It's because Brenton Strange is ascending. He's going to get better. And Laporta going to stay the same.
So, but you've got this whole room of weapons that are all ascending at the same time. You don't know who's going to be the guy that ends up being the super dominant one. It could be Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers. It could be Parker Washington and Brian Thomas Jr., or it could be all 3 of those guys. Brenton Strange could be out of the picture entirely.
He's not going to be out of the picture entirely.
I don't think he's going to be out of the picture entirely either. He's the number 1 tight end. He's a really good player.
He is the number 1 tight end. He is good. I have him at 15.
I think it's probably fair. Maybe a touch low from the talent, but like,
Yeah,
it is a very
I could
crowded
see,
room.
yeah.
I don't get like taxing Laporta for hypothetical target loss from guys who are already there and like a Tesla breakout when the Jaguars are now like going to get a full season basically of multiple of their like Brian Thomas Jr. is coming off a bad year and Parker Washington didn't break out until halfway through the season and Myers wasn't even there the whole year and Travis Hunter was hurt. I don't get like valuing that so little, but valuing the Lions situation a lot.
I feel like
I will rearrange. Theo, I'll give you something here. I'm rearranging my list. Partially, I'm moving Kelsey up, which might sound a little weird.
What does that have to do with anything we've been talking?
I'm moving Kelsey up to 13. Strange slots in now at 14, and Goddard is down to 15.
There we go. Yes, put Strange above Goddard. Draft Strange above Goddard. I think
that's what I was getting at as I was doing that.
Liam Cohen, in such a chaotic room in Jacksonville where nobody knows what's going on and everybody's trying to guess what wide receiver is going to break out. Like, I'd rather be in that situation if I'm Brenton Strange than like be in a situation with two like established 1,000-yard people in front of me. If my goal is like to be the best tight end in the league, because I feel like with Brenton Strange, there's just like, yeah, he's just one of many people competing for, to be as dominant as possible in that Jacksonville room. Whereas there's this established pecking order in Detroit. And last year, Laporta's role...
But no. You're making it up. He's not established over Laporta. Laporta gets more targets. That's the pecking order. It's Laporta at 2. That's the pecking order.
At 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, first it's Gibbs, and then it's Amon-Ra.
I guess.
So where does Laporta fit in between those two?
He's gonna get close to 100 targets. Laporta. Strange, it's just a tough path there. I'm not sure about the confidence that like it's definitely Strange. It's a way bigger risk, and it's like I think he's good, but I just don't see the reason to like be sure that it's going to be him when it's like, so you don't think it'll be Parker Washington, or you don't think it'll be?
I think it could be both.
Well, who won't it? So who gets phased out? Everybody gets like exactly 100 targets. I don't know, man. Because I know
Cohen
you believe in Travis Hunter too.
Liam Cohen, the mathematician.
Liam Cohen is a hell of a guy. Look, what it really is fading Jared Goff. How about that? Let's all fade Jared Goff together and say that he cannot sustain all these weapons. And he's just getting more and more conservative under pressure.
He's been doing it for 3 years. Like,
yeah,
what's changed?
He's getting older, and they just missed the playoffs.
I think this is a Lions take. I think this is
Packers fan.
No one wants 4 yards per target for average depth of target. Laporta catching checkdowns and getting lit up.
Sure, it's not sexy, but guess what?
Strange has great.
This is fantasy football.
Strange has beautiful slot fade interference drawn up for him in his future, whereas Laporta only has screens and checkdowns, I'm afraid. I have no idea. This is pure vibes. I'm vibing with I'm not vibing with Laporta.
Yeah, pure Packers fan over here is what it is.
Do we want to talk about the other two highly touted guys for a second before we get into, because I don't want to go through 11 through 20 each individually. I think so many of these guys are kind of out there. Kittle, pretty obvious. I mean, he's really old.
And
he's coming off an Achilles. He might be ready for week 1. It sounds good, but you're running the risk there. You know what you're betting on. You know exactly. But if he's good to go, or even 90% of himself, you've got a guy who very easily could just be the number 1 target on a fantastic passing offense. And he's an ultimate talent, great after the catch, all that good stuff. I feel like that one's self-explanatory. Kincaid, also somebody who is overly efficient. I mean, the big stat that the route run is like he's 3rd among all players, not just tight ends, but 3rd. He's like at 2.8 yards per route run. So he's just got to see like a bigger volume. He's got to be able to get out there and run more. And it seemed like maybe a little bit last year they were letting him, but obviously like there's some limitations because they like to run 2 tight ends out there, and Knox is a better blocker, so he can get taken out sometimes and all that good stuff. But I think he is a worthy bet with a real upside. And I do maybe feel a little bit like every Bills pass catcher that is not DJ Moore is getting like written off entirely. You know what I mean? Like all of them are basically being drafted like it's completely over.
Yeah.
And I think there's still room for some production outside of Moore. I really do.
I liked what he put on tape last year. The stats make sense because Allen and Cook are such game planning threats. And when they play action, there's just nobody left to defend Kincaid, it feels like. So he's a bit of maybe a scheme merchant in that way as far as route running goes. He gets a lot of pretty open looks that way. But he's got that spidery catch radius. He was really good at attacking the ball in that first available window and ended up being extremely reliable for Josh Allen. I don't think it's a guarantee that DJ Moore is crazy reliable for Josh Allen. Like perhaps there's some things about him that are frustrating, which could make Kincaid, after the season he just had, perhaps Josh's favorite target. I could see it. I could see Kincaid having a big year.
Yeah, I agree. I've become a little bit warmer on DJ Moore since the receiver episode, and Carnell Tate for the record. I just think when you're somebody who's that efficient as Kincaid, that's a worthy bet on an offense that's good. Like I'm taking a shot on that all day over most of these other guys, especially when there's really not a ton of competition. Yep. Not really. Like it's very winnable. So yeah, I got Kincaid at 10 and then a tier break. And you're talking me into the Brenton Strange, maybe all the way up at 11. Like the Juwan Johnson, the Okoronkwo I like as well, like decently for where he's being drafted, those type of dudes. But
where
do you have to route out your top 10? I had him at like 14.
I had him at 19.
What? He's the number 1 tight end on... I mean, look, I don't love the Giants offense. I am notable Giants offense hater number 1, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, Likely's a really good player. Like he's got an insane catch radius. Like he is kind of, he was kind of taking the work away. I was honestly shocked that the Ravens decided to keep Andrews over Likely, because I thought Likely was just the better player, you know? So it is a little bit
Likely
of my ball, but I think Likely is just really, really good. Like if you're going in on these like high talent players that could be in line for a breakout year in an offense where they could be featured now at a high rate. I mean, it's just Neighbors. I mean,
yeah,
who else is really going to be stealing the ball from him there?
Well, Theo Johnson is still there, and
sure,
and he could kind of find himself in this split workload with another tight end. I feel like Likely, I like Likely too, but there's a lot of tight ends that I like Juwan Johnson. I really like Juwan Johnson. He's someone who's an insane vertical threat at the tight end position, but also can throttle down and actually run real routes. I think he can track the ball over the shoulder in a really special way for a tight end. And like you said, Matt, the two wide receivers in front of him are liable to miss some games. And he had 800 yards last year, Juwan Johnson. I mean, Likely has had 300 yards, 400 yards, or 373, 411, 477, 307. So like,
and guess what?
Right.
Likely has still had higher fantasy finishes than Juwan Johnson.
Last year?
Not last year. Last year Johnson was 12, which is pretty
right.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But Likely was at 13.
Has Likely ever been 12?
Likely has been 13 2 years ago. I think those guys have to at least be relatively close. I might be a little low on Johnson. I could see.
I don't think they're
and now
that far, but
I think all of these guys are kind of close. I get the bet on Likely, but I'll be honest, it is largely a Giants don't have a ton of great pass catching options, and they spent a decent amount to bring him in. That rather than like likely has done anything to prove himself as like a high pick in fantasy.
Sure.
He never ever has. And this is of years and years and years of hype. Because guess what? The Ravens also didn't have a lot of pass catching options and also seemingly valued likely pretty highly. And he never, ever got the work that he was supposed to. Things can always change, like keep swinging if you feel like it's a bet worthy of it, but it's not like he had insane efficiency and they just wouldn't do it, or like the passing offense was just so low volume that it killed him. It's like,
and it is still Harbaugh. Like he just went back to Harbaugh again.
And I have worries about the Giants offense too. He may be in a significantly worse offense, albeit, the Ravens were kind of all over the place last year because of Lamar's injury, but likely is one of the guys that I get for sure, but Mark Andrews is also a guy that I get because it's like, who's catching the ball? Even Travis Kelce, I could make that argument. Okoronkwo's kind of the same. I know likely is probably, it's a little bit more open, but man, there's a lot of dudes that
Kelce still had a top 5 finish last year, even with his fall off. Like Kelce, I could even see being like
by points per game, or it had to be total.
It's total.
The total points are going to be really misleading on where a guy actually is, though, right? Not a little bit, a ton. Half of the good tight ends missed time last year.
That's fair.
So he's probably, if he finished above Kraft, or even the young guys like Loveland is not going to be the same. I don't know if he did finish above Loveland, but no way. Bowers, same thing. Laporta, same thing. Kittle, maybe Kittle didn't miss that much time, but regardless, like, I don't know. I'm not crazy about Kelce. He's also just, getting older, getting slower. I know there's value a lot of the times in betting on those guys, because really what you want is just what everybody is too low on. And for a while, it's been they're too low on the old guys. And Kelce is here in an offense that has worked around him for a long time and still does. But if Rashee Rice is back, is he not going to take some of that role from Kelce? That's the other big concern. It's not just Kelce slowing down. It's there might be another better option over the middle. So
they brought in K9. They might run the ball more. So there's a lot that kind of leans against Kelce here. He was 9th in points per game last year.
So he's another one, like so many of these guys are fine bets after 10. For me, it would probably be, I like Strange and Juwan Johnson, I do. Or then I would go with the guys who have the huge roles, like Mark Andrews could be pass catcher 2. I guess Kelce, or really, really pick your guy there.
Yeah, I think I would throw Hunter Henry in that mix still a little bit, as like AJ Brown, of course, is a big time addition, but outside of him, like Kyle Williams didn't really break out like you'd think.
Well, Romeo Doubs. And they still have Keisha.
Yeah. Booty's a deep threat. Yeah, I guess Dobbs is there. Henry, and they brought in Raritan, who's also there. But so there's actually a lot working up against Hunter Henry, but he was great for May last year. He was somebody that deep down the field was a big target for May, and somebody that was the beneficiary of a lot of like really accurate, really high end throws, like in the middle of zone coverages, wheeling up the sideline. I get that he's got a bunch of new toys to play with, but sometimes you get a kid a new toy and they just get their old toy. And you're like, what do you mean? I just spent all this money on something new, and you just still like Hunter Henry. I see that in Hunter Henry's and Drake May's future. When I close my eyes, I still see Hunter Henry wheeling up the sideline, making a catch from Drake May. So I think he actually still has a path to volume, and he's not just going to fade away into that dark night as quickly as people would like him to, probably.
Here's a quick tangent question for you, Theo. It made me remember this when you said you close your eyes and you see this. My girlfriend and I were talking about how apparently when she closes her eyes, she can actually see images.
Yeah.
right? I don't see image. I just see black, and like I can understand. Like the example we were talking about was like an apple. It's like I know what an apple looks like from like the concept of like I know what its curves and angles and color is because I know what all of those things are, but I don't actually see an apple in my head.
No, I can't. I cannot picture things in my mind's eye. I would describe it like there's a black curtain.
Yes.
Like I just saw the apple, and then you put a black curtain in front of it, and you're like, "Can you see the apple?" It's like, no, but I could describe an apple.
I understand what the apple is because I know what it is, but
I think we all do figure, what an apple is. I can't literally see it when I close my eyes, but I can imagine it and see a picture of it imagined. But I'm not like closing my eyes and like literally seeing it. Although when you close your eyes, you do see like shapes and whatnot, because of like light.
I don't understand what that means though. Like people are like, oh, well, some people can close their eyes and they can see images. Like there's that chart of like, what do you see? Is it crystal clear?
I think that's imagining it. I don't think they mean you literally see it like as like a hallucination or an illusion. They mean like you can think of a picture of an apple and see it.
I cannot see anything. Like maybe I just don't understand what you're talking about. But when I close my eyes or if someone says picture an apple, I cannot picture an apple. I cannot picture it. Exactly. I cannot think of any.
Like I can think of an apple. I can think of an apple.
Well, you can like see memories in your head, right?
No. You I just
can't like imagine.
Yeah.
Can you like if you see a photo and then you look away from it, you still can like imagine the photo, right?
I mean, it's more like I recognize the photo exists. I don't have object.
I've memorized, like, there's a Colorado license plate in front of me. If I look away from it, like, maybe I've memorized what it looks like, and I can say, oh, it's got mountains in the foreground, and the mountains have some green details and a green.
Like, if I haven't memorized the details of it, then no, I don't. I can't like it picture it at all.
Nothing about my recall comes from like picturing at all.
Really?
It's pure memorization.
Really? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems crazy, honestly. I think I have a hard time believing that. For the way that you like talking, way you guys talk about players, it makes me feel like you totally like when you think about a guy. I'm sure you can see like a highlight play happen in your head. I mean, like I can close my eyes and see the kick six exactly. I can see Michael Thomas catching a touchdown against Alabama, getting 1 foot in. That's a great play, and I can see. I know exactly how his foot was.
But I can see it in the sense that like it's more like a bunch of jumbled up dots than it is like a picture of the play happening.
It's like it's like the play is happening behind a black screen. It's like I can't see the play, but like I know how it's going. I don't know
how it's going. I know. Yeah.
I know Bostic. It goes between his hands, and Jordy, it bounces off his hands. Like I know how it goes.
Yes.
But I don't know if it's fair to say that I can
more like
it.
I feel it's more that I feel like I'm just reading a play by play more than I'm watching.
I don't know. I don't know how any of this science works. Like it could all be bullshit and we could all be seeing the exact same thing and just describing it differently. But there is this chart of like that I've seen on Twitter or whatever. And it says allegedly some people, when they picture an apple, they see it like this or like this or like this. And it's kind of differing degrees of clearness. And if I had to point to like which one describes what you see if you picture an apple, I'd say nothing. Dead black.
Yes.
Sophia, what would she say? That it's perfectly crystal clear?
She can picture an apple and it's like a crystal.
But I can't like literally close my eyes and see it through my eyes.
Yeah.
She's like creating an image in her head.
I feel like that's kind of different.
Yeah.
But like I can't do that is my point. I don't know. I
don't know how the brain works, bro. I am out of my. I don't want to give a take about it or like argue.
That we were talking about was like, can you create a picture in your head? My answer was no. Do you have an inner monologue? I do have an inner monologue. I talk to it often. And then number 3 was, what was number 3? It was, I'm totally blanking on what the third one was, but it's in that same, can you think about nothing? She cannot, I can.
I don't think that I can, like, at all.
Like, I can't go to sleep unless I'm thinking about nothing. If I'm thinking at all, I can't fall asleep.
I totally can't think about nothing, like, even a little bit.
I was thinking about nothing when I ranked Strange over Laporta, maybe.
I should have said that. But so you figure Dulcich has got to get 80 targets, right? Yeah. I mean, who the hell are they going to throw to?
I agree. That's a very good point. Where were we, man? I said throw Kelsey in the mix of, or throw Henry in the mix of like Andrews and Ferg and whatnot. Okonkwo is a sleeper that I kind of like. He's so good after the catch. He's so strong, and he's got a new situation over in Washington. I think a much better quarterback than he's ever caught passes from before. I mean, if you're looking for a breakout, if you're looking for somebody to break out, how about somebody in a completely brand spanking new situation where everything is different? Like, if something will change, probably for him. Like, I like that bet. So yeah, I put him in just because he's got kind of a special trait about him, and he's in a completely new situation. I could see maybe he's a little bit more appreciated there, and his skill set is a little bit more appreciated there, or able to be accessed than.
Maybe take a shot on one of the Rams tight end guys too. Ferguson, they hype up to no end. He's going into year 2. He can be a downfield weapon. Maybe there's just too many of them there, but all it takes is like one injury. I don't know. Is Claire really going to get like that much work as a rookie? I don't know. Schultz, I don't think is a bad bet at all. Barner, I don't think is a bad bet at all either. I think there's plenty of dudes where I guess there's some guys I just think is like kind of decent bets, and then other guys that I think maybe are a little bit like more risky, like I said, with Gadsden and his role changing, or like Ferguson probably going to be in a worse situation, or a lot of the older guys too, and just falling off. But ultimately, you know, even somebody like Gadsden, it's like, okay, what is his ADP? He's like tight end 18 or something, right? Blaiden, I know you have it up. So it's so low, it almost doesn't matter. But I feel like we've given
Njoku's at 26. I don't know how you guys feel about him there.
He was pretty rough coming off of the injury. What I feel like is if I was going to run a 2 tight end set, and I wanted to threaten big blocking and we're going to run on you and you need to bring your guys down, it would be Njoku, it would be Kolar out there. It wouldn't be Gadsden. So I wonder if he's not getting in those sets all the time, and then maybe there's risk of like Trey Harris and Johnston on the outside and then Ladd at the slot. It's like, hey, somebody's got to not be out here. And it might not be, you know, it's probably not going to be Ladd. So maybe I'm overestimating how much they're going to run Njoku out there in Kolar, but they gave Kolar a very serious contract. 3 years, $24 million.
A big deal.
I think so too.
It's not receiving potentially, but like, yeah, he's going to be out there because they're going to want him his blocking. He's an amazing blocker. Gadsden
if you can get Njoku back to like 2023 form, I mean,
well, yeah, but I think that's a pretty big if.
Sure.
I like Gadsden where he's being picked. I think that because there's all these other tight ends there, and because he's kind of one dimensional, I could see it. New offensive coordinator and all too. Like, is it going to shake out for him the same way? But at the same time, I mean, he had 664 yards as a rookie tight end. That's pretty dang good. It all kind of came on the same looking stuff. Like, it was a lot of penetrate the zones up the seam. He's a deep threat. Catch it and just like sit down so you don't get killed because Herbert's thrown it in a tight window and it could be a hospital ball. There wasn't a lot of yak opportunity. He wasn't like routing you up, breaking. It's just kind of like get where you need to go quickly and the ball will be there, just straight up and down. So maybe that's a role where it's like too limited, and if there's guys who can do a little bit more, they get him out. But it is chunk plays. He is a big body to be doing that, and it is something that they were, it's again kind of an unsettled room in terms of like what the skill sets are and who's actually good. And there's a great quarterback throwing all of them the ball, so it's kind of hard to tell if Gadsden's going to get like washed out or emerge a little bit. Like I can't tell what's about to happen with him, which makes me think just take him where everybody else is taking him and see what happens. Like I'm not playing scared with Gadsden, but I'm also not like you need to draft him.
That's fair.
I think that's fair. Is there anyone else you guys want to talk about?
I have Hawkinson at number 20. I was debating between him and Sadiq.
I'm really not that high on Sadiq at all.
Neither.
I think he's just too limited as a route runner. But he's very explosive, I guess. So he's a bet in that sense. But he's also banged up right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a number of guys in that room. Like Taylor is probably still going to be on the field a lot. Cooper, Adonai Mitchell gets, a decent amount of hype for what it's worth. And then obviously Wilson. And I don't really trust the offense.
Yeah,
I do think they might run a decent amount with Hall. Like
Sadiq, I just wonder how easy it is to get him the ball because he's so fast that you've got to be like, let's get him the ball deep. How about that for an idea? Yeah. And I could definitely see it where he makes big plays, but is it week in and week out, game in and game out, someone that you want starting there? Because it's like, I could see it being like, he's not the guy that they target underneath. He's not the guy that is making up the bulk of the dropbacks. He's just kind of this big play guy. I don't know. Sadiq is really interesting. He's cool, but yeah, that fantasy situation in his archetype,
I could see a lot of
unsettled.
I could see like he has some weeks where he catches 3 passes for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? And then other weeks he might get 5 targets and catch none of them, Yeah. And that is, I think, the big concern with Sadiq is like, he might end the year with, 4 or 5, 550 yards. But if you're not getting that every single week, I just don't know if it's worth taking him over someone like Hawkinson, who, I feel much more comfortable putting in my top 20.
Yeah, Hawkinson, definitely not maybe the same, but now we're a couple of years removed from a knee injury. I thought last year, going through some of the highlights, I didn't think he was moving around terribly. Like I watched the get up cool test and how they look after going down. Are you popping up or are you kind of dragging yourself up? I thought he was popping up. I thought he still looked like he had some speed. He attempted a few big time hurdles, which maybe you're not doing if you're feeling like horrible. And now he's getting a quarterback boost like everybody else is getting on that offense, where it's like the indicators are bad, right? If you're trying to beat the books or you're trying to beat the fantasy rankings, there's reasons to be low on Hawkinson for sure, to be like, oh, this guy's just old. He's old and he's kind of getting into scary territory off a down year. But he's someone that I could see like lead into the punch a little bit there, and maybe there's a little bit more juice there with a better quarterback than it seems. It may not just be a linear path straight down. There might be some more gasps in there for Hawkinson. Mm-hmm. We'll see though.
Yep. I completely agree, but I think that'll do it for another episode of Stay Hot. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast. We're right there. Taste of NFL season is right around the corner. We've got a couple more divisions to preview. But until then and until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.